Today on Context, we're looking at the movie industry. What makes it so compelling? What meaning can we find in movies? We'll hear from an actor, Gerard Butler, a film expert, and a man whose life inspired an upcoming Hollywood film, Machine Gun Preacher. I'm Lorna Duick, and you're watching Context, the show that explores life beyond the headlines. From celebrity sightings to film festivals, our culture is obsessed with the movie industry. In 2010, the film industry generated over $86 billion in revenue, and its future is expected to shine brighter. Our fascination with moving pictures isn't a recent one. Over 2,500 years ago, Plato wrote how people watch projected shadows on walls. So why and how do movies continue to capture our attention? Let's put it in context. Our next guest has interviewed Hollywood's biggest names and knows the film industry inside and out. Father John Pungenti has worked as a media educator around the world for over 35 years. He created, produced, and hosted 2 national TV shows on movies, but his passion is in his book title, Finding God in the Dark. It's about taking spirituality to the movies. Father John Pungenti teaches media and religion at the University of Toronto and is director of the Communications Jesuit program. Father John, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for asking me.
Well, first of all, what is a priest doing going to the movies all the time?
Well, why shouldn't he? I'm human. Everybody should be going to the movies. Not all the time. I don't go to a movie every day. But I mean, movies are part of our culture, part of our way of life.
So why do movies attract us so much?
Well, there's all sorts of reasons, but one of the basic reasons is that we see ourselves in the movies, that there's something there for us each and every time we go, if we learn how to look at them properly.
Okay, so you actually, your great book, Finding God in the Dark, you've got 8 paths that you challenged me to follow media literacy on. Tell us a little bit about this stuff.
Well, first of all, I better tell you what media literacy is, because otherwise nothing makes any sense. We teach kids in school to read, to be literate about reading, to be literate about writing, to be literate about mathematics. The same way we should teach kids to be literate about that media, which is the air they breathe, which is the mass-mediated world. And so we teach kids to learn to watch carefully and think critically about the media. That's great for kids because we teach them that in school, but for all of us, we should be doing the same things. When we go to movies, we should be watching carefully and thinking critically.
Okay, well, are there some guidelines on how to...
There are wonderful 8 guidelines to these, which we call the key concepts of media literacy. I won't take you through all of them because it becomes a lesson. But I'd like to mention a couple of them and to mention movies that tie in with them, because the best thing to do is to get an example of each key concept.
All right, you brought some clips. Give us some of these concepts.
Okay, we talk about the fact that all movies, in fact, all media, create versions of reality. And a great example of that is the film Inception, where many people really aren't clear about what is going on. But when you sit and look carefully at Inception, you realize that Cobb, the protagonist, is really looking, he's on a journey to find who he is. And in many ways, that's what we are. We're all on a journey through life. We're all pilgrims in this world. And so when you understand that that's what he's doing, then the film can make more sense to you. Again, there's another great key concept saying that who we are is what is important about what we watch. Media teaches us that we need to bring ourselves, or we do bring ourselves automatically to movies. So let's say, for example, that the last Batman movie, The Dark Knight, which if you come to as an action fan, or if you come to as somebody who likes comic books, or if you come to because you just want to be entertained with a lot of violence and shooting and the rest of it, that's great. But you also can take yourself into it a little further, and you can realize that The Dark Knight is really about 3 men who are seeking power, for good or for evil, and that one man seeks redemption. And that's our journey as well, that we're all looking for that.
Okay, you've used that hot button word, redemption, very spiritual word.
Yes, of course.
You do believe God wants to speak to us through movies. Why would he bother?
I think that God wants to speak to us spiritually through everything. I don't think it's a matter of making movies spiritual. I think it's a matter of being aware. When we go to a movie, it has all our attention. And that's when God speaks to us, in our attentiveness. And that's when he shows us where we are on this spiritual path that's in that exercises of Ignatius.
So why would God need a movie to get all of my attention? I would think he could supersede the movies anytime he wanted to.
Of course he could, but then he'd be taking away free will. Then God would be telling us what we have to do.
So take my imagination to the movies.
Take your imagination. It's doing the same thing that Ignatius said in the exercises. In the exercises, Ignatius says that we should put ourselves, for example, in the nativity scene. We should be a shepherd boy watching the birth of Christ. So what we do is we say, yes, now take this movie and see what's going on in there that can lead to an understanding of where you are on your spiritual journey.
Okay, we're going to go to a rather dramatic movie coming up for the rest of the program, which is my favorite genre, and that is based on a true story.
Right.
I love this. How do you approach that genre?
Well, very carefully, because you realize that the main purpose of a film is to make money. That film is an industry. It's an industry and it's a business, and the bottom line is how much money do you make. So when it says based on a true story, it's obviously going to get a certain type of person in who wants that story to be heard, or to see that kind of a story. So you have to watch carefully and think critically about what is being presented and how they're changing it to make it true, but to make it palatable, to make it more entertaining, if you want.
All right. Okay, so you're convinced you don't just need to go for entertainment. You can go for a spiritual experience at the movies.
I think you do go for spiritual experience, whether you know it or not. I think when you become attentive to it, like if you go to the Harry Potter movies, you're all caught up in the world of Harry Potter. But remember in the last book of Harry Potter, when he looks at his parents' tombstone, what he sees is a quote from 1 Corinthians. The greatest enemy is death. And that's what Harry Potter is out to defeat, death. He does it by showing us examples of love, of faithfulness. He is, in many ways, the ideal Christian, and we need to be aware of that when we're watching the movies.
Father John Pingenti, author of Finding God in the Dark, thank you very much for challenging our view on the movies.
Thank you.
And now we're going to hear from our studio audience and find out their thoughts about how they go to the movies. When watching a movie, do they think critically about what they see? Let's get their polling results right after the break. We'll see what they had to say about how the audience views the movies they enjoy.
When in the Toronto area, Lorna invites you to be a part of her live studio audience. Check out our website for dates and times, contactwithlorna.com, or call 416-599-9777, extension 33 for more information. Come and join the conversation.